Show, NorthJerseySports.com's original multimedia series talking all things football across North Jersey. This is Season 6, Episode 10. I am Corey Doviak, and we are all over it here. This is the second football show that we are taping tonight. The first one had to deal with everything state playoff technicalities as far as how they were formed, the ongoing discussion about how they are being enacted and all of the changes and everything else. This one is about the playoffs themselves, the teams that are in it, and everything else. And I am being joined by my elite panel of North Jersey football insiders, starting with the venerable one, Jimmy Avatable. What's going on, Jimmy?
What's up, Cora? I can't believe it's playoff time already. It seems like yesterday it was Labor Day weekend, and a lot to talk about, obviously. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like a blink of an eye ago. I was trying to figure out how to get you your press pass for this year, and now we're a couple weeks away from this whole thing being over. Time flies when you're having fun, and one guy who has more fun covering high school football than anybody else I know, he is the head Husky, Mr. Brian Carr. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, it's a great weekend. I got a good variety of games. I went to championship NJIC. I got to see a Connecticut team. I got to see the Catholics, and the Huskies made the playoffs for the first time in 12 years. So pretty good football time.
Yeah. We're going to get into the state playoffs. We're going to go through the brackets, our impressions, and everything else. But we should start with where you were on Friday night, the atmosphere and everything else at the NJIC championship, the appetizer to state tournament football. Brian, you were there. I was supposed to be there, but I got hung up. The Bergen County girls soccer tournament moved their final up a day, so I was in Oradell rather than Hasbrouck Heights. You were there. Take it over from here.
Two great teams, you got to say it. I happened to walk into the coach's locker room at Heights. Coach Del Caso said, "Hey, Bears inside. Go ahead, go inside." I went in there, and they were talking about they were anxious. Bear had said to us, "I don't know if we could stay with Rutherford. I don't know if we can stay with them." And then we were there later, and then Coach Howell came by, who we had on the show last week. Coach Howell came in. We had a nice conversation outside. Coach Del Caso, Coach Howell, Coach Bear. It was a great time. Good friends. But the game, Rutherford went out, got a quick field goal, drove down the field. It looked like we were going to have they looked pretty good. And then the first play of the game, Coach Bear, I guess, saw something, and Spencer Lee hit a running Purdy who was streaking across the field, 10 yards down the field, and he was in for a touchdown. And they're up 7-3. And, it was pretty tight in the second quarter. And then it really got going in the second half, and Heights had to score a touchdown. It really kind of broke open the game. They took the second half kickoff and drove for the score. That kind of set the tone, and they really had all guns blazing. You had Purdy 2 touchdown passes. He threw a touchdown pass. Spencer Lee had 5 touchdowns. Michael Robertson ran for about 150 yards plus a TD. But it was in Rutherford. It looked like they could. Johnny Mendez he could run all over the field, but Heights was able to shut him down, kept him down about 150 yards as well. But it was a great game. Heights really turned it up, and 48-24, they really was locked and loaded. Spencer Lee, 10 for 11 and 228 yards and the 5 touchdowns. So I think the player of the game probably is Spencer Lee. Very humble young man, and I don't know if you want to roll that clip or let Jimmy talk first, but we do have Spencer Lee.
Yes, we do have Spencer Lee, and hear his interview with Brian after the game.
Brian Carr here, Hasbrouck Heights. After an NJIC victory for Hasbrouck Heights, I'm here with Spencer Lee. Spencer, how do you feel after the big game?
Feeling great, feeling amazing. It's just so overwhelming that we just put up that many points and we did our jobs. Just came out firing.
So last year you guys lost to them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Heartbreaker.
How does it feel now to have won?
Sweet revenge. It felt amazing. Just amazing coming out. Offense doing our job, just putting points on the board. It's amazing.
So talk about your night. I know it was a team effort,
yes.
but you had 5 touchdowns. So just talk about how does it feel to throw 5?
On my line, man. Line was always there for me. Receivers made hell of a plays. Great job, everyone.
I think you really started off early, threw to Purdy on the first play. Yeah, what was that? What'd you do there? Was it a little slant across the middle?
Yeah, a little slant. Faked like I was running, I just threw it over the middle. So I ran up, got it, right down the field.
And then he came back and he had a touchdown too.
Yes.
It was a Tim Tebow touchdown, a little jump pass.
Yep.
Good job. So how does it feel now, NJIC champs?
It feels amazing. I mean, so overwhelming, just shocked. We just did that.
Good stuff there with Spencer Lee, and it wouldn't be a Hasbrouck Heights game without speaking to the great one, Nick Del Calzo. Brian Carr also caught up with him. Here's that interview.
Kids played hard tonight. Kids are going to be banged up tomorrow, so we got to be ready to. What we got to do is, get ready for whoever we play. We don't know who we're playing or, what's going on. But hey, we played well tonight. We got to keep it up. I thought we were on all cylinders.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Talk about being at home and winning near the shed.
Yeah. You want to know something? I thought, I was saying our kids did a great job defensively when they took the ball, the opening kickoff, and moved it down, and we held them to 3, and then we come back and score. I thought that was a whole game changer, and we were really on fire,
the offense really stepped up.
I thought the offense, did a great job. Josiah's just also made a great catch there, but Spencer Lee had a great game throwing the ball, and also Robertson, the kid had some big runs.
Right.
Big runs. I think we had 25 or something. We needed 25 yards on third down, and he made a great run over here at the end.
I think a big play for you guys. Remember, they got it within 12, I think it was, and they had 4th and 6 over here. And then Lee threw a nice pass. Purdy had to come back and dive and catch for the first down.
Right here. Yeah, did a nice shot. Yeah.
That was a key play because then you went in and scored after that.
We went and scored after that. Right. We did a good job tonight.
So 2-time NJIC champs with a break in the middle. You're in the final last year. How's it feel now to come back and win?
It's good to come back. My staff did a great job preparing for them, and our kids were ready to play tonight. Played with a lot of intensity, and even came out the second half and did a good job. So it's good, but now we got to prepare for the state tournament, and hopefully, luck's on our side also. I thought, not luck today. I thought we played pretty tough.
Right.
And Menendez. See, when you play a team like that, Menendez, you got to be 2 scores up because you don't want to kick it off to him because the kid can go 80 yards for a touchdown. So you better off give him the ball here, and he can go anytime. He's a tough player. But our players are pretty good too.
Talk about playing in your home stadium and what it means to kids.
Well, last year we had 3 home games, and this year at least we got some home games, and it's fun to play home. But
definitely there's a home field advantage. You guys have not lost here. It's been 6 years. To the day. It was 6 years to the day. The last time you lost
to the day.
All
right. Okay. All right, so we can keep going.
A public school. But I don't want to talk about way back.
But you know what, though? Our kids did a great job tonight. And my hat's off to my coaching staff and my players. And they just play with a lot of intensity, and they really played hard.
Good stuff there, Bri, with Nick Del Calzo. And as we all know, head coach is only as good as his coaching staff. And here, I wish, Bri, what is his real name? I know him as Bear, Adam Biera.
Biera, but Bear, yeah.
All right, we'll stick with Bear. You caught up with him after the game. Here's how it sounded.
With Coach Bear, 2-time NJIC champs. How's it feel?
Feels great. Really, it's the best part about it is being home to celebrate it. 2 years ago we were away. We're at Pompton Lakes. That was a great game. It's really the crowd. The crowd is unbelievable. Our fans come out and they support us. The school. It was an awesome atmosphere tonight, and we're just happy we got at it. We played a pretty good football team, and Rutherford was they're tough. These guys are defending state champs. They're Group 2 school. They're very well coached. We know their coaches pretty well. We scrimmage every year in the summer, and they're a hell of a football team. And we beat a very good football team tonight. And we're ready for the playoffs. So everyone, guys got banged up, and hopefully, we heal and we're ready for the States.
Talk about your offense. Spencer Lee had 5 touchdowns. Purdy had 3 touchdown catches and 1 touchdown pass. Talk about your offense. I think it was really in good shape tonight. 48 points.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day, and we only at Josiah Purdy's a special football player, and we only have a couple games left with him. So I said, why not? Let's just let's throw the kitchen sink at him. Why not the championship game? And let's have some fun tonight. And these guys. The bottom line is we executed. I say it all the time. Execution trumps scheme any day of the week. And these guys, Spencer and Josiah and Rink, Robertson, the offensive line, all those guys, they really. They believed in the game plan, and they executed.
I think you really started off early on the first play of the game, right? The slant pass to Purdy.
Yeah, the slant pass. Josiah, that was a huge way to start the game. It's what happens when you watch YouTube every day, and you Google, YouTube clips and plays, and
plays that work.
Plays that work. They look good, and so why not run them and then see what they look like. So
talk about Purdy had a nice one-handed catch in the end zone there.
He had a great catch.
Second touch.
Yeah, he had a great catch. He ran a slant and go route that we've been working. We had the whole field there, so Spencer did a great job throwing the ball to him. And even though I yell at him for catching the ball with one hand, I guess I'll take it. So.
Right. So it feels pretty good, huh?
Feels great.
Two-time?
Yeah, two-time. Last year we went over there and we lost to them. This year we got a little payback, which is nice, and these kids deserved it. Thank you. You know what? I tell you what, my wife...
talk about your wife. Yeah,
my wife,
to deal with you.
Yeah, my wife actually missed the game last year. It was like the only game she missed in the last 30 games that we played, so I kind of blamed her for that. But she made sure to come out tonight, and she was here, and so I kind of she's kind of my good luck charm. So.
Good. All right. Thanks a lot, Coach. Good luck the rest of the way. We'll see you in the playoffs.
All right. That's a wrap on the NJIC Conference Championship game between Hasbrouck Heights and Rutherford. And now let's move on. The next thing on the agenda is the state playoffs. Let's, you know what, Jimmy? Maybe let's start a little bit higher up on the brackets. We've been Group 1 heavy throughout this show and throughout this season. So where do you want to start? You pick it and take us through one.
Let's start Northland Group 5, the big boys, the big boy publics. The number 1 seed is Montclair, the defending champions, who've a pretty young team. They are hosting West Orange, the 8th seed, on Saturday. You have the number 5 North Bergen Bruins at number 4 Hackensack this Friday night. Number 6 Kennedy, who narrowly was defeated by Ridgewood earlier in the year, at Clifton, number 3 Clifton Friday night. And you have number 7 Passaic Tech, who's doesn't have the greatest record this year. They're at number 2 Ridgewood on Friday night. So, the bracket really sets up to be a 1-2 matchup, in my eyes, with Montclair and Ridgewood. Got some inside information today from a big Montclair fan. Their best player might have torn an ACL and might be out for the season. And if that's the case, Ridgewood, the number 2 seed, would take over the favorite role.
Yeah, it's an interesting development there. And the other thing I will say about that bracket is, good on Clifton, good on Kennedy. They're going to play each other. So you're going to get one of those teams, not a perennial playoff contender, either one of them, and one of them is going to move on to the state sectional semifinals. So I think that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And it was a 34-33 game that Clifton won earlier in the year, so it's going to be a good rematch.
Yep. All right, Bri, your turn.
You want to continue down to or into that second half of that section over there?
Yeah, I mean, should we talk about North? Should we talk about North too? We could take. Yeah. I mean, obviously, that's where the power lies in this bracket this year.
Right. I mean, it's this. There's a rematch there. My alma mater, Bridgewater Raritan, who had really a weak year, and it's kind of, I don't know if you guys talked about it, to Danny Vivino, but they kind of don't belong in there. They're only 2-6. They just beat a good Union team though last week. That's probably what got them in. Union is the number 2 seed. They got in there. So, but they're only 2-6, as well as the other guys. Passaic Tech is only 2-6 as well.
Right.
So, but they're going up. It's a rematch of an earlier game they played this season against Piscataway. There's a lot of. I understand. I haven't seen Bridgewater play, but there's supposedly a lot of talent on the team. They always consistently have talent. But it's a rematch against Piscataway, who dominated them about 3 weeks ago, 47-0. So not probably a great game. And then the next game down, you got Westfield, 3-time state championship in the Group 5, up against Union City. Westfield's been down. Again, only 2-6. Union City looks really good. I like them a lot. We saw them up at the roof. They look really good. The next game, I see Elizabeth Union. These are rival games. They played each other. Union, number 3 seed in that group. I don't know much about. East Orange, I think, is a pretty weaker team. It doesn't have a lot of wins. They're there against Ridge. You want to talk about?
Yeah, no. What I was going to say. I mean, the thing about North 2 Group 5 is that Union City, they play on the roof with a view of New York City, and they're in North 2, which, Jimmy, that gets back to that's one of those northing things where other teams are never going to have to worry about it, but Union City does because obviously they're on the cut line.
Yeah, for years, Union City has been in the playoffs, Coach Valdez's team, and they've come up on the short end of the stick. If they were in North 1 Group 5, which they've been previously, they would probably be considered the favorite, but as we know, they're not there. They moved into a tough bracket. Obviously, Piscataway is the dominant team in that section. They will be challenged in that section, but I think Piscataway is going to come out.
Yeah. All right, North 1 Group, good.
One other comment I have is that the Bayonne Bees, great team. I did some checking on them. They're not making the playoffs, 6-3, and they're up to these, like I said before, other teams, Bridgewater, Westfield, only 2-6. The Bees, and I just checked this, they lost 3 games. They only lost by a total of 23 points, 10 points to Union City. They probably really deserve to be in the playoffs and not in there. I know Union City was on Twitter talking about, hey, those guys deserve it. And I do the research, and what I see, they probably should have been there because of their good record. And this new system, I think, threw things out of whack with the Bourne indexing. But they're a good team and should have been in that playoff bracket as well. Yeah,
I mean, you could make that argument, and they have a right to be upset at 6-3 when you look at the record. But I'm looking, they beat Dickinson, beat Bloomfield, beat Memorial, beat Kearney, beat Columbia, and beat Passaic. I mean, is there is not another playoff team in there? And, their 2 losses, North Bergen and Livingston, are the 2 playoff teams that they played, and they didn't win. So, again, we talked to Dan Vivino. There's going to be hiccups. There's going to be everything else, and it depends what side you look at it. If you're from Bayonne, you're obviously really upset. If you're not from Bayonne,
obviously, they have 4 more wins than those other 2 schools, Bridgewater, Passaic Tech as well, and as well as Westfield. So you got 3 other teams, only 2 wins, and they had 6. So I understand they didn't play the most powerful schedule. I mean, they were ahead, by the way, at Union City. They were ahead in Union City in the 4th quarter. So they're a good team, and they have some athletes. But, hey, it is what it is. It's too late now. But I think there's some people talking about this right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And if it was up to me, the 6-3 team is in. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I'm just saying that there is another side of it. All right, North 1 Group 4. This is kind of in our wheelhouse here with Wayne Hills, Old Tappan. You got Passaic Valley snuck in. Good job by them. The number 7 seed. They're going to play at Old Tappan. Northern Highlands, after a bad start, played their way in, and Wayne Valley got in too. So, Jimmy, this is a bracket with a lot of local flavor.
Yeah, it certainly is. Obviously, every year you got Wayne Hills, Old Tappan there. Mount Olive, last year's finalists that gave Old Tappan everything they wanted. Yep. They're the 8 seed. They're back in there. And as you mentioned, Northern Highlands as a 5 seed. Last week in the monsoon, they went out to Morris Knolls and lost a 12-7 game. Well, guess what? They're right back out on Saturday at Morris Knolls again for the rematch.
Yeah.
I mean, that should be interesting. And don't be surprised if Northern Highlands wins this one. Wayne Valley, Morris Hills. Wayne Valley is that team that's under Roger Cutler, that's been around big games. They've been in big games, had leads late, and just haven't been able to find a way to get it done. Let's see if it can happen this year. And then Passaic Valley, Chet Polavecchio beat West Milford on a grass field on Saturday. If you take a look at some of the photos of that game, it looked like a swimming pool, the field. And Old Tappan, Old Tappan again, the model of consistency. as a 2 seed. I know they're banged up, and they've been banged up for a while, but they certainly can make a deep run in this bracket.
Absolutely. Brian, anything to add on North 1 Group 4?
Yeah, I was just looking at Wayne Valley. They played a tough schedule, and they didn't lose. The games they lost were very close. 1 point, 14 points, 5 points, and 10. So they competed, and so up against their rival, they played well. Against Hills, it was only lost 14-9. So and Wayne Hills was number 1 seed. So I think good things. But it's got a challenge. Johnny Lawler is their guy. If he can, do well, they can do well, but they'll have a challenge. So that's all I have on that group right now.
Yeah, Johnny Lawler's health is an issue, too. We'll see if he plays. North 2 Group 4 has no local interest for us, so let's move on to North 1 Group 3, and that one is loaded with intrigue, as you have Ramapo, the number 1, you have Riverdale, the number 3, and you have Paramus, the number 2, and then you have an upstart like Lakeland in there, and the old stalwart Sparta in there, too, Bri. I mean, that's, Pascack Valley. When we talked to Dan Vivino, he talked about how they, upped their schedule. They didn't duck anybody, and they made it into. You got Demarest, which was a semifinalist last year. So North 1 Group 3 for me is always the most interesting bracket, and I think this year is no different.
Yeah, I agree. You've got those 3 teams in there. You got Ramapo, Paramus, Riverdale, and they've been neck and neck all season. Ramapo obviously undefeated, so they're the favorite, I think, right now. They'll end up likely, if Paramus can get through Riverdale, that'll be their challenge to get through that one in the second round. If both teams win their first round, you'll have a rematch of the game, the 20-13 game that just had a couple of weeks ago. So that should be again in Paramus. This time in Paramus, last time in Riverdale, right?
Yeah,
I think they're switching fields. So. But I think what we're going to do is take a ride up and see a Lakeland team against Sparta on Saturday. Lakeland, who is pretty, done very well. They're 1 loss. They lost to, help me out, West Milford. They lost a close game by 1 point. By 1 point, they lost. So Lakeland, they dominate a good Westwood team. So they're, it would be interesting to see them. They have a 1,000-yard rusher there. That should be interesting. I think this is one of the good brackets, very competitive with those 3 teams, those local teams we have. Plus, you got Demarest. Hey, Demarest, you never know, could put up a fight against Ramapo on opening round.
Yeah, let's give Ramapo some credit, too, for, playing Week 9, playing an undefeated team in Week 9, and then defeating Randolph 42-0. I mean, they've had the pedal to the metal since day 1 of the season. And really are carrying a lot of momentum into a tough playoff bracket. When you have, Paramus beat Riverdale during the season, Ramapo beat Riverdale during the season. That game went to overtime. Last year, Ramapo beat Riverdale during the regular season. Riverdale beat Ramapo in the state final. So, I think the key to that, Jimmy, is just to sit back and watch.
Yeah, you talk about a very, very tough bracket. Obviously, we were there opening day. Ramapo beat Sparta 21-19. Very, very competitive game where Sparta, pretty much for the last 2.5 quarters, dominated that game. Ramapo, Riverdale with a 2-touchdown lead with 9 minutes left and loses in overtime. Paramus beats Riverdale. So certainly a very balanced 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a very even, close 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed.
Yep. North 2 Group 3 holds no local interest for us. So let's move on to North 1 Group 2. Where the top seed is Newton. That holds no local interest to me. We had Dan Vivino on the other show we did tonight. The Westwood Cardinals are number 2 seed. Jimmy, you got Ramsey in there. You got Mawa, Glen Rock, 2-7. North 2 Group 2 has some flavor.
Yeah, Newton, the defending champions last year, came into Westwood, beat Westwood on their home field in the semis. They were a very physical football team. Lost a bunch of good seniors last year, and look at them again. They're the number 1 seed. I don't think they're as talented or as physical as they were last year. Westwood, what an outstanding job bouncing back from that tough loss to Lakeland. We know Lakeland's in the Group 3 bracket. They got beat up by Lakeland. They've come back. They've won 3 in a row. They've set them up as the 2 seed. Their skilled kids are very, very good. if they can get some solid line play, they have a big-time chance. Ramsey's another team. Is a team you do not want to play year in and year out. You have to go out and beat Ramsey. It's always a competitive game. It's always a close game. So, Ramsey High Point is a really, really good 4-5. And, Mawa the teal factor. If he gets hot and starts throwing the ball around, they can beat Kinnatini. So I think it's a wide-open bracket. I think Newton is a very vulnerable 1 seed.
Yeah, it's an old-school North 1 type bracket when you got Bergen County mixed in with Sussex County all over the place. Brian, anything to add there?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is, I agree with Jimmy. I think Newton is a little bit off. Former state champ last year. They're not quite what they were last year. Kinnatini as well, the 3 seed. Mawa's playing. Kinnatini played them very close. Kinnatini lost to them 28-17 in one of their 2 losses this year. So Kinnatini is a potential threat with Mawa, and Mawa's going to go to Kinnatini. So they're traveling. And Ramsey, like you said, very competitive team. They always play it close. They're always in it. So, that's competitive, very competitive. But Westwood's been getting better and better as we talk to our friends at WCTV. Larry tells me, he said this early in the season, they're going to get better, and they have. They struggled early, Lakeland game, couple games, and now they've gotten on that roll. So they should be able to handle Glen Rock, and then get to the next round, and then probably likely either Kinnatini or they'll play Kinnatini or Mawa, right? Yeah, no, they'll play a high Kinnatini Mawa game. That's I think their next round.
All right, North 2, Group 2, Bri. I got to go right to you. The number 7 seeded Dumont Huskies against Verona.
Hey, I'm very happy. I think the team's very happy. I did happen to meet 2 of the coaches this weekend. Down at the Giant game yesterday. I saw Rich Kerber, the offensive line coach, and he was pretty excited. We were going back and forth about it last week. I did run into Coach Burr today. I asked him if he wanted to talk. He wants to win, and then he'll talk. But, it's great for the kids. It's been 12 years since they last were in the playoffs, and that was also the last time they had a winning record. My concern is I want them to have a winning record, but then the playoffs is good too. So hopefully they hope it'll bring more kids out to the program. So I'm excited for the Huskies, and they're going to have a challenge. We saw Verona play. Jimmy was with us up in Verona. We saw them play a good Cedar Grove team. So Dumont's up for a little challenge, and I think Coach Bird will figure something out, and they'll be competitive. And hopefully they can maybe pull that one out. It'll be great. Rutherford's in the bracket. I don't think you want to play Rutherford this week after their game against Heights. Rutherford's going to be pretty fired up this week. I'm sure Lawson Fisher is going to have a little attitude, and Kyle Russell, the quarterback. They're going to be ready to go. Johnny Mendez, they're going to be ready to go this week. Lyndhurst is a 3 seed. Lyndhurst up against Hanover Park. We saw Lyndhurst play New Milford to a scrappy game. Lyndhurst could have beaten New Milford in the regulation, and they missed the field goal, and they lost in overtime. So pretty good team there. And then you got Mountain Lakes and Hawthorne, another NJIC team. So Group 2, in that North 2, Group 2, good luck to the Huskies and our Bulldogs.
Jimmy, anything to add there?
Yeah, the interesting team, the mystery team to me is Hawthorne. I've heard some very good things about them. They have perennial power Mountain Lakes, and should be a very good game. It's one of the games we considered going to, but I think Rutherford is the most athletic team in the bracket, and with experience, and like Brian said, coming off that loss, it was a tough loss, but I think that refocuses them. I think it gets them back on track, and I see Rutherford winning that section.
I hope so, because I want Andy Howell to come on in his regularly scheduled spot. We had him on last week. They lost to Hasbrouck Heights. Maybe we get the good mojo going, and he'll accept his Howell-Ean invitation again next year, too. All right, so now we're down to the little guys. North 1, Group 1. Hasbrouck Heights, the defending champion, is not in it. The number 1 seed is Butler, the new kid on the block in the NJIC. Jimmy, Pompton Lakes snuck in there as the number 8 seed. You got Park Ridge hosting Cresskill in another, local rivalry here. You got Boonton hosting Emerson and New Milford Wallkill Valley. Jimmy, I know you love North 1, Group 1.
Yeah, you know, Pompton Lakes, not only did they have to beat Waldwick, which they did in overtime, they were actually, it came down to a tiebreaker to get into the state playoffs and went to the third criteria. They got in, and as you mentioned, they pushed Hasbrouck Heights to the Group North 2 section. But I tell you what, I think the team that has been impressive has been Butler. I mean, Butler has one loss. Their only loss to Hasbrouck Heights. They had a lead at halftime that night up on the grass field, the mud after the rain up there. Butler very talented. New Milford, you know, always there. Coach Wild will have his team prepared for Wallkill Valley. That's a really good game. The question with New Milford is health. Mm-hmm. Who's playing? And that, you know, they've been banged up the last 3 or 4 weeks. Park Ridge responded after that Hasbrouck Heights loss. They beat New Milford. Vinny Pinto had a big game. Boonton, a 3 seed, another team flying under the radar. But you know, I kind of see a Butler Park Ridge final in that. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. You know, I like Butler though. You know, we saw them, you know, stay in it with Heights, so I like that one. And Park Ridge, you know, Vinny Pinto, very good there. So, you know, and if New Milford could possibly sneak in there, if they could be healthy. You know, they have a lot of talent over there with Martin Akivo and quarterback Ryan
Mackey.
McKay, right? Okay.
Mackey.
Mackey. So they've got some talent there. They just need, like you say, hopefully they don't have too many injuries. So we have a lot of local interest. That looks like most of the NJIC teams, except for Wallkill and Boonton. So it's the 16 in the NJIC, so it should be interesting, a lot of fun to follow that through.
Yes.
On the other side.
Yep, we talked. Go ahead.
One more thing, guys. Wallkill Valley did defeat Newton, Group 2 Newton, gave Newton their only loss. So they're a team coming out of Sussex County that I would be very worried if I was New Milford right now. Yes,
and North, excuse me, North 2 Group 1, Jimmy, we've been doing shows all night. I got a little frog in the throat there. North 2 Group 1, we talked about it. You know, listen to, you know, not only Hasbrouck Heights is in there, they're defending North 1 Group 1 champs. They're out of there now. They're in North 2 Group 1. They're the number 2 seed. They're in with a bunch of small school powerhouses like Shabazz, like Wequahic, like Cedar Grove. You know, they're going to play host New Providence. We talked all about it. We talked about Hasbrouck Heights' big win early in the season. So, yeah, a quick word on North 2 Group 1, Jimmy, that we haven't said already.
So well, you know, you have the bracket is extremely difficult. Hasbrouck Heights would have been a 1 seed in North 1 Group 2. You mentioned became a 2 seed. You know, they have to play New Providence. New Providence is only 8-0. So, right. You know, your first game, 2-7, you'd like to have a little bit of a breather. And I'm not saying Heights won't win the game, but you're still taking on an undefeated team. And New Providence, coached by Chet Parlavecchio's son, who's doing a great job there. Shabazz, ultra-talented. We know that. Cedar Grove did defeat them a couple of weeks back. I know Shabazz had a couple of their key people out. Wequahic is very, very talented. You know, Hoboken, a perennial power, is in that bracket. Boundbrook is a good program. So certainly out of the 2 groups, I think it's safe to say that North 2 Group 1 is much more difficult than North 1 Group 1.
Yep. All right, let's talk about the big boys now, Bri. Obviously, you were there on Saturday. You saw some non-public school football. Well, why don't we start with Group 4 there and your impressions? I mean, this, you know, I've been saying it all year. The regular season really didn't matter because everybody makes it. They're all good, and it's going to be a matter of who's probably the most healthy out of anybody going into these state playoffs here. So, you know, a non-public Group 4, what do you make of it, Bri?
You know,
right.
It's a toss-up. It's a toss-up. You know, it could be any of the top 4 teams, likely. That's what we think. Any of the top 4 teams could probably win this. It all depends who's hot.
Yep.
And as you say, Bergen's been a little beat up. You know, but they really got into DePaul and tore up DePaul.
DePaul's beat up too, though, yeah.
And DePaul's beat up too. You know, St. Joe's, you know, they've been fighting and playing, you know, competitively, and they've been in playoff football. So a lot of these schools are used to being in playoff football like all season long. You know, and they lost a tight game to Bergen, their only loss in New Jersey. So, and that was, back on October 6th. So, Joe's, they don't win it big. They don't seem to run up the score too high against the other boys, but they have a will to win. St. Peter's always dangerous. The third seed in this bracket. St. Peter's, who beat Paramus Catholic. Right, I think that was the right case. They beat Paramus Catholic. So that you got to watch out for St. Peter's. St. Peter's is a very talented team. On the game on Saturday, the weather had a lot of impact. Peters is a very run-oriented or pass-oriented team, not so much run, and it wasn't good weather to be passing. So obviously Joe had the advantage. Joe's is a main running team, and they ran. But Joe's really shut them down. They got a big offensive line. They shut down St. Peter's on the line and kind of dominated. But what we've been saying all along here the last couple of weeks is you got to watch Don Bosco. Don Bosco has really stepped up. The running game has really picked up. They lost a tight game to St. Peter's, but they really dominated DePaul a couple of weeks ago and really showed us something that there's something to be, to be worried about. They're a threat to beat anybody at any time. So we think it's those four. The other guys in the bracket, Dale Barton, St. Joe's, Metuchen, and then there's four other teams that are going to have a play-in to get to play those other five. You got Notre Dame at St. Augustine Prep, and then Paramus Catholic is going to play Seton Hall Prep. Those two teams are up and down. Paramus Catholic is struggling. They tend to compete. Seton Hall is kind of up and down. I think they're about 5-4 right now. So I hope Coach Billy Fitzgerald, who made the playoffs now, or he's in it, hopefully Billy, can bring his boys and get them ready, and maybe they can get a win there against Paramus Catholic.
Yeah, but Jimmy, from the Paramus Catholic perspective, it's an important game. A little momentum, young team in the playoffs, winnable game. It's winnable for Seton Hall Prep too, but how important around the PC campus?
Well, I think most importantly was their effort last Friday night against Don Bosco. Don Bosco came off a huge, big win, almost 600 yards rushing, and Paramus Catholic had a lead middle of the fourth quarter. So I think some of those sophomores are starting to grow up a little bit. Listen, they're a ways away, but I think they came in around the hallways today. There was a little pep in their step that, hey, if we do what we're supposed to, we can play with people. They lost a tight game at Seton Hall Prep earlier in the year. It's pretty much a pick-em game. Unfortunately, the winner there has to go play Bergen Catholic. I tell you what, Brian, you were right. That wasn't a great game last Saturday at St. Joe's, the weather. But the one thing it did for St. Joe's is it kept them home in the semifinals. If they have to play St. Peter's, that game will be at St. Joe's instead of down at Cave Point, and that's a tremendous, tremendous advantage for St. Joe's. So that's how important that game was.
Yeah, good point. The other bracket. Oh, God. No, I was just going to say.
I thought whoever won that, I thought would be number two. That was the number two game, or number two seed. You win that game. Peters won, they would be two. They lost, they had to go to three. And then Joe's gets two. So I think it's important. I don't want, one of the things we kind of talk about a lot is that Peters typically doesn't travel and play as well when they travel. They're very hard to beat at Cave Point. So it's big for Joe's to have them back at their place. Hopefully they have better weather this time. But, so it's good for Joe's play at home if they get to that point.
Yep. And then in the non-public Group 3, the local interest obviously is second-seeded DePaul. And, Jimmy, it's all about health with DePaul at this point. I mean, they played the big boy schedule, and they're all banged up, and DePaul has taken its share of lumps.
Obviously, they took a hard blow with Hickman being out. Their outstanding All-American going to Ohio State. Without him, not only offensively, he was their big main weapon in the pass game from Robertson, but defensively. I mean, they've given up some huge plays in the run game, where normally he's able to chase that down for a 20 or 30-yard gain. Against Don Bosco, I think they gave up 4 or 5 plays over 50 yards, and not having him there is certainly hurting them, which makes them going from a favorite. The team to look out for, Corey, is Matter Day. Very talented, 5 or 6 Division I players down in Monmouth County, 2 Boston College commits. Very, very talented team. Them and DePaul, to me, and Red Bank Catholic, very, very consistent. But I think the DePaul Mater Dei semifinal would be a real game to go watch.
That is why I bring on my illustrious panel of North Jersey football insiders, because I don't even know where Mater Dei is. So
Monmouth County.
I very rarely get over the border out of Bergen County. We'll see you next week.
Follow the leader.